will begin this lecture on geographies of religion by looking at some of the key symbols in the main religions of the world. Starting on the left, we see the crescent moon and star that's associated with the Muslim faith. Moving to the right, we see the crucifix of Christianity, Buddha of Buddhism, Shiva of Hindu, and in the top right, we see the Star of David. In this lecture, we're going to answer, what is religion? Think about, why do people adopt a religion? Then we'll take a look at the Semitic faiths, the Asian religions, and we'll wrap up by looking at contested spaces, the idea that multiple religions may claim identity and community in a shared space. When we look around the world, we see a map that shows us very well-defined patterns. Now, we need to keep in mind that this map shows us areas of intensity, of majority, but it doesn't mean that in the Americas, where we see the tan color, that only Christians live. So what we're looking at on this map are dominant religions in different regions of the world. When we look to see which religions have the most followers, we see that Christianity stands out at about 2.3 billion. Second is Islam with 1.6 billion, and this religion is actually growing the fastest. Number 3 is Hinduism with 900 million, Buddhism with a little under 500 million, and following up we have other religions such as Sikhs. Judaism, actually, while relatively pronounced in this part of the country and in the United States, it's a small religion when we look worldwide and see the number of followers. So as you think about religion and where different religions exist around the world, ask yourself, why religion? We see that we have billions of followers, billions of people that identify with a certain religion. And when we look to see why people follow religion, we see a few similarities. Religion helps us create a worldview, how we understand our role in the world. It provides comfort. It provides guidance. It provides hope. We also see that religion is a major part of our morality or our code of conduct. It helps us make sense of our role in the universe. It also helps us explain the unknown. Religion could be either universalizing or ethnic. Universalizing is a religion that is looking to grow its followers. Christianity and Islam are two large universalizing religions. Hinduism and Judaism are both ethnic religions, meaning that followers are born into the religion. You're not going to be a Hindu unless you're born of Hindu parents or a Hindu parent. Jews are not looking to actively attract new members that were born outside of the Jewish community. So an ethnic faith is generally going to consist of members that were born into that religion. Mono or polytheistic simply means one god or many gods. And when we look at our Semitic faiths, monotheism, single god, is a very strong unifying characteristic. Polytheism is found in some of our Asian religions and also found in animist followers, those who have a sacred bond with nature and the natural world. And while we are focusing on religion, we do need to recognize that a sizable percentage of the world's population represents themselves as atheists, or those that are not following a religion, not believing in a monotheistic God, or not believing in a polytheistic faith. So when we take a look at our Semitic, or also known as our Abrahamic religions, we're going to start out by focusing on Judaism. Now, when we talk about our Semitic religions, these three main religions, they share similar stories and they share a single God, a creator. The symbol often associated with Judaism is the Star of David, the king of the united Jewish kingdom. Worldwide, there's roughly 13.9 million Jews. About a third of them live in Israel, about a third of the Jewish population lives here in the United States, and the other third is spread throughout the world. Again, Judaism is an ethnic religion, meaning people are born into it. The sacred book is the Torah. So while the Torah contains myths and stories specific to the Jewish faith, we will find similar stories in the Quran or the Bible, the two sacred books that are part of the Islamic and Christian faith, respectively. When we talk about the Jewish community, we need to recognize the impact of diasporas over time. And dating back to 586, 587, we saw the first large diaspora, the involuntary movement of Jews out of modern-day Israel, when the Babylonians conquered Jerusalem and tore down Solomon's temple. Beginning in around 516, the Jews rebuilt their temple, the Second Temple, and that lasted until about 70 current era, when the Romans came in and pushed the Jews out after a battle. So this claim, this sacred claim to Israel, to modern-day Israel on the eastern shores of the Mediterranean, goes back all the way to the 6th century BCE. So when we look at the Jewish diaspora, we're looking at multiple events that caused the Jewish community to be pushed out of Israel, out of the Middle East, and also this call for Zionism, this call for a homeland that brought the Jews back, after Solomon's temple was destroyed, that brought the Jews back after the Romans conquered the Jewish community in the 1st century of the current era, and then in the mid-1900s, following the atrocities of World War II, there was also a very strong Zionistic movement to bring the Jewish community back to Israel, back to the eastern shores of the Mediterranean. Here's a map of the Jewish diaspora. Again, this was after the fall of Solomon's temple back in 587 BCE, and you can see the movement of Jews west throughout North Africa and into Western Europe, where we saw different branches of Judaism evolve, such as Ashkenazi in Europe, such as Sephardic in North Africa. Our second Semitic faith is Christianity. Again, Christianity is our largest faith in the world, our largest religion, with 2.3 billion followers. The symbol for Christianity is the crucifix, Jesus hanging on the cross. The sacred book of Christianity is the New Testament, that tells the stories of the life and times of Jesus Christ. Christianity is a universalizing religion, continually seeking out converts, looking to grow its following. Two large events or two large periods of diffusion helped influence the spread of Christianity, one being the Roman Empire. In the 4th century of the current era, the Roman Empire adopted Christianity as its official religion. When a religion is adopted as official religion, it opens up those avenues to diffusion. It overcomes a lot of those barriers to diffusion that we've discussed previously. And then beginning in the 15th century, colonialism helped spread Christianity to the Americas. Now, prior to colonialism, prior to the age of exploration, the Americas were primarily based in animistic faiths, but the introduction of Christianity through the Portuguese, through the Spanish, through the English, French, Dutch, allowed the faith to spread throughout North and South America. When we look at our map, again, we see that the concentration of Christianity in the Western Hemisphere. We also see it throughout Europe and through Russia, and then down in South Africa and Australia. Now, when we look at the Eastern Hemisphere, we could see, again, these impacts of colonialism as the British Empire spread Christianity to both South Africa and also Australia. When we look at Christian affiliation, we should note that Catholicism remains the largest percentage of Christian followers, followed by Protestantism. Now, in the United States, we're seeing a growth in Protestantism and a decline in Catholicism as our communities shift, as adopters, as individuals are moving away from Catholicism and towards some of the Protestant sects. This map reflects Christianity's diffusion throughout Europe during the Roman Empire. You can see the pockets in darker orange were around the start of the 4th century of the current era, and this is a time right before Christianity was adopted as the official religion of the Roman Empire. So between 300 and 600 AD, or current era, you could see the lighter shades of orange, and that reflects the growth of Christianity and the diffusion of Christianity after the Roman Empire adopted it as its official faith. Our third Semitic religion is Islam. Again, the symbol for Islam, the crescent moon and star. Islam is our final Semitic religion, and this religion is based on the bond between Muhammad, a prophet, and Allah, that single God that is also recognized by the Jews and Christians. While the Islamic faith recognizes Jewish prophets, recognizes Christian prophets, it recognizes Muhammad as the final prophet. And that when Muhammad wrote the Quran, received his information via the angel Gabriel from Allah, that these words of God, these scriptures, these ways of organizing our societies, these rules for living, were believed to be the final words of God. Islam, again, is a universalizing faith, and it's the fastest growing faith around the world. So while Christianity has 2.3 billion, Islam about 1.6 billion, Islam is growing and closing that gap between itself and Christianity. When we discuss Islam, we need to recognize the importance of the faith in many countries when it comes to religion and politics. This idea of a caliphate is a theocracy, a country that bases its law, bases its norms in society on religious beliefs as documented in the Quran or as interpreted through the Quran. And when we look at our split in Islam, we see that about 80% of Muslims are tied to the Sunni sect and only 15% Shia. This split occurred during the decades after Muhammad's life, when Sunnis and Shias disagreed on the ascension, disagreed on who should take over, who should lead the faith following the death of Muhammad. And over about 1,500 years, we've seen these divides that started out as such a simple split between who succeeds Muhammad. We've seen this divide grow and cause major differences within these two communities. So the Sunnis, again, are the majority, and the Shia are the minority. And we've seen in countries like Syria, where the head family is Shia, and in countries like Iran and Iraq, where there's different influences with Sunnis and Shia, how this could lead to problems when a minority group is in politics trying to govern a majority group. This map shows us the diffusion of Islam, and you can see Islam spread out of the Arabian Peninsula. Again, Muhammad lived in the 500s and 600s. His words, his guidance, his early diffusion of the faith then spread into Central Asia, throughout North Africa, and all the way down into Southeast Asia. And we'll wrap up part one of this lecture by looking at the 5 pillars of Islam. The first is the profession of faith, that Muhammad is the final prophet and that Allah is the only God. The second is praying 5 times a day. Between waking up and going to bed, Muslims are required to face Mecca and pray at 5 different points. If you're in the United States, that generally means facing east. If you are in Africa, that generally means facing northeast or east. If you are in Southeast Asia, you would be looking northwest. Ramadan is a month of fasting where Muslims cleanse their soul. The Muslim faith is based on the lunar calendar, so generally Ramadan is about 28 to 29 days. Muslims are required to give alms, generally 10%, and alms go to poor. They go to help the less fortunate. And the final pillar is the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. Now, any Muslim who is healthy and financially able is expected to go to Mecca at least one time during their life. Now, this is a major pilgrimage that occurs every year. So these 5 pillars are the basic guidelines of the Muslim faith.